You're back on another one. This time we
Divorces can
got
get
10 superstars who forced the trade by Nonstop Sports. Make sure y'all like the video, comment, subscribe. I had to react to this because I'm a little up and down at the same time. I'm up because I just, a couple hours ago beat Derision solo Easter egg for the first time. Um, but the disappointing thing is I'm a Timberwolves fan, and we just traded for Rudy Gobert. Now I don't know how this trade is going to work out for us. It might be good, it might be bad. What I do know is we gave up entirely too much. Entirely too much. Gave up 4 first round picks and 5 players. 5 players. Way too much. Way too much, bro.
pretty ugly, and the
Let's go
NBA
ahead.
is no
Get to it.
exception. Here are 10 superstars who forced their teams to trade them.
There's gonna be a lot of
Will
options on this
Chamberlain.
list.
Will Chamberlain
Also, KD and Kyrie could be on this list very soon. I know KD they already announced that KD wants to trade. Kyrie's been rumored, but I mean, shoot.
was the first NBA superstar to demand and orchestrate his own trade, and he did it in the era when players couldn't dictate their future, 20 years before
was a few
unrestricted
weeks ago.
free agency even existed. You were with a certain team, and you were their property, and they had the option of
Oh,
keeping
no.
you or getting rid of you. Elgin Baylor, Wilt's Lakers teammate. At that time, contracts included a reserve clause, a standard provision that gave owners the right to retain their players after contracts expired, giving the players no say in whether they wanted to stay or leave. However, when the ABA League formed in 1967, NBA players finally had leverage. They could threaten to switch leagues if something wasn't to their liking. Wilt was also the biggest star in the league, and he had personal leverage of his own. After he finally won the championship in Philly, after 8 years of Celtics' reign, Wilt somehow convinced the 76ers owner to give him a 1-year contract with no reserve clause, which he then used to become the first ever NBA free agent in 1968. Chamberlain then started calling other teams to tell them he was available, only because he wanted to start a bidding war to increase his salary, acting as his own agent. The Lakers ultimately traded for Wilt, giving away a few role players as token payment and sweetener for Wilt's deal, even though it was ultimately Wilt's choice where he would go and not the 76ers. Vince Carter. There's
I
plenty
mean,
to like about
good though, good. A reserve clause? That's so dumb. It's basically you're trapping them into restricted free agency forever. Except they can't go and get that other offer. It's just like, hey, it's either you not in the league or you playing for us. So, which is so unfair.
Vince Carter's career with the Toronto Raptors. Air Canada, as he was called, is single-handedly responsible for many Canadian players letting go of a hockey stick and buying their first basketball. After he won Rookie of the Year in 1999, he transformed the Raptors into a winning team and gave them the first taste of playoff success. He was arguably the fastest first step in the NBA, a smooth mid-range jumper, and his violent dunks were must-see TV, the purest exhibition of athletic poetry in motion. He was nicknamed half man, half amazing, but there was still a lot
That's
to
a great
dislike
nickname.
about his career with the Raptors. The first one was his trip to the graduation ceremony in North Carolina,
bro.
which
He'll
was
be
due
fine.
on the same date as the Raptors' Game 7 against Allen Iverson and the Sixers in the 2001 East Semis. Carter looked exhausted and missed the game winner that would send the Raptors to the next round, and many fans believed it was because he was too tired from that round trip to North Carolina. Another reason is that Carter never worked hard in the first part of his career, relying only on his talent and caring mostly about himself and his numbers. And the third and most important reason is the gruesome way he left Toronto. After the Raptors missed the playoffs in 03 and 04, Carter demanded a trade before the start of the next year. The Raptors didn't want to lose their franchise player, so Vince decided he would sabotage the team. Carter played zero defense. He dragged himself across the court and basically half-man, half-assed the last 20 games he played for the Raptors until he was finally traded to the Nets. When the trade came
it's kinda
through,
crazy.
Vince immediately started dominating for the Nets, averaging 27 points, 6 rebounds, and 5 assists compared to 16 points, 3 rebounds, and 3 assists with the Raptors. Vince took a big proverbial dump on the entire organization and fan base, and from that moment on, he was booed every time he came back to Toronto. Anthony Davis.
Until like his last couple seasons. There was like 4 or 5 seasons left when he played. He was just like, they're like, all right, whatever, it's fine. We good again. Vince, whatever. That is kind of crazy though. He did a James Harden. He straight up did a James Harden. He's the pre-James Harden, because that's what James Harden did. James Harden showed up fat, didn't try. He was just like, hey man, whatever, just trade me, trade me.
Anthony Davis was one of the most dominant college players of this century, and New Orleans had little to think about when
Did
they
he get
got
his teeth fixed yet? Because I'm not gonna lie, I don't really care about teeth, but that's bad. And then you got the money, so you might as well. I don't know if he's ever done it or not. Like, at the end of the day, it really doesn't matter. But like, I was kind of wondering if he ever did get his teeth fixed.
College players of this century, and New Orleans had little to think about when they got the first pick of the 2012 NBA draft. But during his 7 years in the Big Easy, the Pelicans and their GM Dell Demps had always managed to screw things up, putting together mediocre teams around AD and showing little ability to evaluate talent. Despite Davis being a perennial all-star, the team had a negative rating in 5 of Unibrow's 7 years, with only 1 playoff series win. It wasn't too hard to convince AD to leave.
That's because Drew
Once
Holiday
LeBron and
locking
their
up
mutual
Dame.
agent Rich Paul began flirting with him to come to La La Land, Davis demanded to be traded. What was unique about this was Rich Paul publicly saying that AD wants to join the Lakers and Lakers only, and if any other teams trade for him, that AD would leave after his contract expired. Davis got fined $50,000 for publicly demanding a trade, and the Pelicans didn't let him play in games at first, and then the NBA forced them to play him because he was healthy. It was a soap opera that only NBA free agency could provide. To add insult to injury, Davis showed up for the final Pelicans home game wearing a t-shirt that read, "That's all, folks," a reference to Porky Pig's famous line. 2 months later, his wish came true, and he joined LeBron in Los Angeles, giving an end to this arduous saga. Kawhi Leonard.
That was kind of wrong of him. Like, and this is the reason why I feel like we're going to a lockout, because the players are kind of being excessive with getting out of these teams. It's like, okay, I get you're done dirty, but also like they're not building around you. But it's also like, bro, you signed the contract. Wait until your contract's done and leave. It's that simple. Yeah, they offer you a lot of money, but then you gotta wait. Do you want the money or do you want to win? So leave once your contract's done. If they trade you, okay, then like, there's got to be like thing both ways though, because you also can't just trade somebody out of the blue. You gotta at least let them know, like, hey, it could be something like the players can be like, hey, let me know like when you're shopping me, and let me know when a trade is being done. Because if it's out of the blue or something like that, and they don't let them know, fine them. Like, you owe me this much money if you don't let me know. Like, make it a ridiculous amount of money. Because that's their lives also. They gotta have a way to just like know what's going on with them. Their family might be in jeopardy because of this. They might have to leave them for a while. They don't have a place to go, something like that.
The Spurs have a superstar player. They usually spend their entire career with the franchise. George Gervin played
Kawhi was real dirty for this too. I'm not gonna lie. Kawhi was very dirty.
only his first 2 and the last year of his career outside of San Antonio. David Robinson, Tim Duncan, and Manu Ginobili played their entire career for the Spurs, and Tony Parker left only in his last NBA season. San Antonio and Coach Pop have always been known for Spurs culture, which
Tony
was
Parker was
predicated
dirty
on
too, though. Like, he was a
consistency,
dirty
hard
man.
work, great values, and winning over personal stats. Kawhi Leonard embodied all those values, and after he won the Finals MVP in 2014, he became the franchise player, and everybody believed he would follow the beaten path and remain in San Antonio forever. But after the Spurs medical staff misjudged his knee injury and forced him to come back too soon, while he was still feeling discomfort, the relationship turned sour. Kawhi stopped all communication with the franchise and demanded to be traded. The Spurs had no other option than to oblige, and they sent him to Toronto, where Kawhi became a fun guy and a 2-time champion, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar.
Okay, but let's be honest. This is really Zaza's fault. If it wasn't for Zaza, Kawhi would still be a Spur.
Kareem came to the NBA in 1969, and in his second season, he already won an MVP award, an NBA championship, and was considered the best player in the league. After a close finals loss in 1974, the Bucks didn't even make the playoffs in 1975, and Kareem wasn't happy. It was partly because the team around him wasn't that good, and partly because he never felt comfortable in Milwaukee. Introverted Jabbar never really connected with the people, the audience, and the city itself. Before the end of the 75 season, he told the owners that he wanted to leave, and that his request was non-negotiable. He also told them he wanted to be traded to a big market that would satisfy his cultural needs, meaning either to the Knicks because New York was his hometown, or the Lakers because he enjoyed LA a lot during his college career at UCLA. The owners knew that once Kareem decided something, he couldn't be persuaded to change his mind, and after 6 years and 3 MVPs in Milwaukee, Kareem became a Laker. James Harden. The OKC ownership decided...
that's kind of fair. If you don't feel comfortable there, then you don't feel comfortable. But then again, just wait for your contract to be over. I don't know how long his contract was at the time he got it traded. I have the internet. What am I doing? Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, Milwaukee Bucks trade. Contract. I don't know like what the contract situation was there, but Basketball Reference probably has it. Okay, 1975. Abdul-Jabbar, 1975. Contract. That's not what I'm looking for. I'm looking for Basketball Reference. Okay, let me just go Kareem Abdul-Jabbar in Basketball Reference. And it probably will show 1975. So he was a rookie 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 years. So then what was his contract situation look like? I really don't know how to run Basketball Reference like that, but... Salary would help. UCLA, nope. New York, nope. High school, that draft, contract, a career length 20 years. He had a long career. Game high playoff series, no star. Because it is kind of important to know like the length of contracts. Nope. Field goal. Okay, let me try one more thing. What was Kareem Abdul-Jabbar's contract history? That works. Contract history. Earnings, I mean, that kind of helps, but that doesn't really help. Maybe the other link will help. When did he change his name? That might help if I just look up his original name, Lou Alcindor. So he was still on his rookie contract. So he couldn't leave regardless. My goodness, he was a GOAT coming in. Okay.
Not to offer James Harden a maximum deal to save a few $1 million in luxury tax, not realizing Harden's true worth. Harden felt disrespected and demanded to be traded, so the Thunder shipped him to Houston. Of course, it was one of the worst trades in NBA history, as Harden became one of the best offensive players in history during his time with the Rockets. Houston made the playoffs every year when Harden was there, but they couldn't get over the hump and get out of the Western Conference, mainly because of the Warriors, who defeated them 3 times in the playoffs. History repeated itself, and the Rockets made multiple questionable trades to shed salary to avoid paying the luxury tax. And after they sacked head coach Mike D'Antoni, post yet another playoff disappointment. And after GM Daryl Morey left, it was time for Harden to go too. Just like Andy Dufresne in Shawshank Redemption, James decided he'd been there long enough. He demanded a trade, and after it didn't materialize initially, the Beard came into the season out of shape, sending a strong message to the new GM. After 8 painful games at the beginning of the 2021 season, he was finally traded to the Brooklyn Nets. Kyrie Irving. In 2019, Kyrie Irving said that the young guys on the Celtics don't realize what it takes to be a championship team, and that he called LeBron James and apologized for how he acted as a young player in Cleveland. Kyrie and LeBron were a great 1-2 punch that led the Cavaliers to 3 straight NBA Finals, delivering a legendary championship in 2016. But after 2017, Kyrie wanted to be the main guy and not the sidekick. He wanted to be Batman, not Robin, or Maverick, and not Goose. So he asked to be traded without even consulting LeBron. Even though there were still 2 years remaining on his deal, and the Cavs didn't have to trade him, they sent him to Boston. In retrospect, that was probably a mistake, especially because they didn't get much in return. Before we go into the final 3 names on the list.
And they screwed over Isaiah Thomas. That's why people didn't want to play for the Celtics, because Isaiah Thomas was their guy. And like he was in MVP talks. His sister just died. He played in the playoff game, and I'm pretty sure they won that game too. They went to the Eastern Conference Finals, and they go to trade that man who was their offense, which is crazy, right? That's a crazy sequence of events. Isaiah Thomas led his team to the Eastern Conference Finals with a hip injury, and his sister passed away. That's crazy.
We have to
and
give
they traded him.
They
did him dirty, so that makes sense.
In the early 70s, Earl the Pearl Monroe forced his way out of Baltimore and into New York, where the Black Jesus helped the Knicks win their second championship. Charles Barkley wanted to leave a bad 76ers team in 1992 and move to Phoenix, which is hypocritical considering how often he criticizes players that want to get traded. In recent memory, we had Eric Bledsoe, who tweeted, "I don't even want to be here," which earned him a fine from the Suns.
I remember that.
After that, he hilariously backpedaled, saying he talked about his hair salon. He did get his wish and started getting haircuts in Milwaukee. Paul George demanded a trade from Indiana in 2017, and Jimmy Butler cursed his way out of Minnesota in 2019. Chris Paul.
I'm hurt still. I'm over it now because I really like Jimmy Butler, but like at the time, it's like, bro, mad because Andrew Wiggins wasn't putting in all the effort, and Karl Anthony Towns. I mean, it's true, but it's just some way you got to talk to people. You got to talk to people some sort of way. He didn't know how to talk to some people. It's like if they're not down with that, hey, beat me up kind of thing, like then don't talk to them like that. You know, like don't be a jerk to me because I'm not gonna respond to that. I want you to be like, hey, bro, step up. Like, come on, I know you got it in you. Instead of, man, you suck. You need to get better. Like, bro, that's not. Who's that helping? Who's that helping, dog? I don't know.
Chris Paul 3 seasons to become the best point guard in the NBA and be selected to the first All-NBA team.
I feel like that's how Wiggins
led the league in
better.
Steals and assists, along
Probably
with
like
21
Curry,
efficient points. It took Chris Paul 6 years to realize that the team that drafted him, the New Orleans Hornets, as they were called then, weren't going to get any better. The Hornets only managed to win 1 playoff series during Paul's tenure, and he then decided he needed a change of scenery, despite 3 years remaining on his deal. He demanded a trade and got dealt to the Lakers, and then the NBA, led by the commissioner David Stern, famously vetoed that trade. Ultimately, Paul did land in LA, signing with the Clippers in the 2011 season. Carmelo Anthony. At the midpoint of the 2010-2011 NBA season, the New York Knicks played great basketball after developing a great core of players. At the same time, Carmelo Anthony was in the last year of his contract with the Nuggets, and he was anxious to get traded. In the trade saga that was known as melodrama, Anthony forced his way to New York before the trade deadline. By doing so, he destroyed the Knicks core, which bit him and the Knicks in the ass in the long run. If they had waited half a year more, they could have had both Carmelo and a deep bench. And then maybe his stay in the Big Apple would have been a bit more successful. Dwight Howard. 1 season after Carmelo had his melodrama, Dwight Howard created one of his own. Dwight was the best center in the NBA for years at the time.
This sucked. This is because people couldn't get over the fact that he wanted a new coach. Like, yeah, okay, it makes sense. Your coach, they took it to a different level. Yeah, he did say, like, man, like, this isn't working. Coach ain't really, and then Stan Van Gundy took it personal. Like, bro, you just want to win. Yeah, of course, it's your job, but you'll bounce back. You bounced back multiple times. The Detroit Pistons, literally, you cut Josh Smith. You think Josh Smith was happy about that? He didn't go on blast and be like, hey, man, he don't want me here. Like, bro, that's messed up.
Three-time Defensive Player of
It's
the Year
childish.
and the best player on a team that made the NBA Finals in 2009. But after feuding and ultimately getting his coach Stan Van Gundy fired, Dwight still wasn't happy. So the Magic traded him to Los Angeles in a big 4-team trade that made 11 players change their address.
Which also, he was only there for like 1 year and didn't resign because he couldn't get along with Kobe. Because Kobe was probably like Jimmy Butler, was demeaning to get the best out of people instead of like, bro, pick it up. Like, I know you can do better, kind of thing. Instead of motivational, demeaning instead of motivational. Some people get different motivation. Dwight was that kind of person who did not like that kind of motivation. That's why he worked better with LeBron. LeBron probably a pick it up kind of motivational person versus Kobe, who's a man you trash like kind of motivational show not tell kind of person. LeBron I'm a show and tell kind of person. I hope y'all enjoyed. Make sure y'all like the video, comment, subscribe, and let's see who KD gets traded to. This makes me a little happier because Rudy Gobert. Yep, and I'm sad again. I'm out. Bye.